In this video, we're going to look at the term phrase. Here is a definition for phrase. A phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. Let's put up a sentence. My friend from Paris writes books about ghosts. So look at this. My friend from Paris. That's a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. These words are functioning like a noun. Look at this group of words. This group of words is also functioning like a noun. And how can we prove it? Well, we could write, John writes books. That proves that my friend from Paris is functioning like a noun. And books about ghosts is also functioning like a noun. But they are groups of words. They are phrases. Here's another example. Please pass me the plate on the table. On the table. Now, this phrase is functioning like an adjective. It describes the plate. It tells us which plate. We could have said, please pass me the red plate. But we said, pass me the plate on the table. That phrase is describing plate to make it more specific, and that is the definition of an adjective. Here's another example. A cheetah can run faster than an Olympic cyclist. Faster than an Olympic cyclist. This phrase is functioning like an adverb. It is describing the verb run. Now, hopefully that was clear, but it is a little bit more complicated than that. Let's just look at all of these again. So look at the top left one, my friend from Paris. We've already said that that is functioning like a noun. But look, from Paris. This is also a phrase, and this one is functioning like an adjective. And it is modifying my friend, which is also a phrase. And they are both integral parts of a larger phrase that's functioning like a noun. Look at this one. About ghosts. That is an adjectival phrase. It is describing books. Now look at the middle one. The plate on the table. Well, that is a group of words functioning like a noun, but the one that I pulled out originally was an adjective describing the plate. And look at this, an Olympic cyclist. That is clearly a noun, but it is an integral noun phrase within an adverbial phrase. And look, there are other phrases that I didn't even talk about. A cheetah. That is functioning like a noun. Can run. Well, that is clearly a verb phrase. So it can get complicated. But let's go back to the definition. A phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. Right, let's clear that. Before we talk a little bit more about phrases, we've got to talk about clauses, because phrases contrast with clauses. The definition is quite similar. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, and that's where it's different, that functions as one part of speech, or one grammatical unit. So point 2 here is the same, but point 1 is different, contains a subject and a verb. Look at this example. My friend from Paris writes books about ghosts. From Paris. That is an adjectival phrase describing my friend. But look at this. My friend who lives in Paris writes books about ghosts. Who lives in Paris is also describing my friend, but this group of words has a subject and a verb, and that's what makes it a clause. So this is an adjective clause. We have a whole lesson and another video on clauses, and also the different types of phrases and different types of clauses. So look at this. Contains a subject and verb. That is the difference between a phrase and a clause. Let's get back to phrases. Let's look at the grammatical units that phrases can function as. So the common ones are adjectives, adverbs, nouns and verbs. And here are some more examples. I am looking for a book to make me laugh. That describes a book. It's an adjective. She is going to Paris to buy a book. To buy a book. That tells us why she's going to Paris. It is functioning like an adverb. I am looking for a scary book. That is functioning as a noun. I am looking for a book. Am looking. That group of words is functioning like a verb. Now, they are the common grammatical units, but actually phrases can function as other ones too. I'm going to put these ones up just for reference with some examples. So look, according to is a preposition. No one is an example of a pronoun. Not only but also is a type of conjunction called a correlative conjunction. And even determiners, a few books. Holy moly, that was expensive. A phrase can even be an interjection. Like I said, the top four are the most common. But remember, a phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. And there we have examples. Let's clear that. The next thing I want to talk about, mostly for reference, are the different types of phrases. And we have lessons on all of these. But for reference, here they are. An adjective phrase. He has extremely evil eyes. Well, an adjective phrase is a phrase that functions as an adjective, obviously. But notice that the phrase actually contains an adjective. So extremely evil. In this example, evil is actually an adjective. So an adjective phrase is one that functions as an adjective that is headed by an adjective. Now look at this. Adjectival phrase. Most people use these terms interchangeably, but most grammarians reserve the term adjective phrase for a phrase that is headed by an adjective, and adjectival phrase for a phrase that is not headed by an adjective, but that functions as an adjective. So, in the corner. There is no adjective in that phrase, but it is functioning like an adjective because it tells us which cake. Hopefully you can see the difference between those two terms. Adverbial phrase. She sings with passion. That tells us how she sings. It's functioning like an adverb. A noun phrase. I like this book. Well, you could say I like books or I like it. That proves that it's a noun phrase. Prepositional phrase. Buy the cake in the corner. Let's put up another one. She sings with passion. Well, we've seen both of these before. One was an adjectival phrase, the other was an adverbial phrase. But look, they both start with prepositions. So these are prepositional phrases. So the first one is a prepositional adjectival phrase, and the second is a prepositional adverbial phrase. A gerund phrase. A gerund phrase is a phrase headed by a gerund. I like collecting old bottles. Collecting is an example of a gerund. We have a lesson on gerunds. Infinitive phrase. I like to collect old bottles. Well, this is a phrase headed by the infinitive verb to collect. We have a whole lesson on infinitive phrases. The gerund phrase and the infinitive phrase shown here are both noun phrases. Next, participle phrase. The dog sitting in the corner looks like Snoopy. Sitting in the corner. So this is a phrase headed by a participle. It is describing the dog, so it is an adjective phrase. It's an adjective phrase, not an adjectival phrase, because the participle sitting is a type of adjective. Okay, a positive phrase. And a positive is a phrase that renames or redescribes. So, the daughter of Henry VIII is an example of an appositive phrase, and it redescribes Elizabeth I. So this slide was just to give you a bit of common terminology related to phrases. Let's clear it. Next, I want to talk about some common mistakes with phrases. Look at this example. A box of letters were under the bed. A box of letters. That is our noun phrase. Now, this sentence might look correct, but it's wrong. Let's look a bit more closely at our noun phrase. Our noun phrase is made up of two integral phrases. The first one is a noun phrase, and the second is an adjectival phrase. In this whole noun phrase, a box of letters, the head noun is box, which is singular. Of letters is just an adjective. It doesn't determine the verb. So this is wrong. It should be was. A box of letters was under the bed. If we got rid of the adjectival phrase, we would just be left with a box was under the bed. And you can hear that that is correct. So just be careful with noun phrases. Don't let any adjectival phrases take your eye away from the noun that's governing the verb. I hope that makes sense. So this one is now correct. Here's another fairly common mistake. He fed the sharks in the cage. Now this is ambiguous, so I'm going to mark it as wrong. The sharks in the cage. That looks like a noun phrase. And if it is a noun phrase, well, we have an integral noun phrase and we have an integral adjectival phrase. And the adjectival phrase describes the sharks. So that would give us this situation. He fed the sharks in the cage. But that would be an unusual scenario, so context would tell us that that was wrong. Knowing the context, let's look at how we would interpret this. He fed the sharks in the cage, so the sharks would be a noun phrase. In the cage would be an adverbial phrase, and it tells us where he fed the sharks. Don't forget, adverbs modify a verb to tell us how, when, where, why, how much, or how many. So in this example, it's telling us where. So in the cage is a phrase functioning like an adverb. So the scenario is this. And that is the scenario you would expect. But the sentence was ambiguous. So let's reword the sentence. From the safety of the cage, he fed the sharks. Now we have our adverbial phrase up front. We've kept it away from the word sharks because it's not modifying the word sharks. It's modifying fed. One more point I'd like to touch upon is look at this. Look at this comma. When you have a phrase functioning like an adverb or an adjective and it's fronted, it is usual to offset it with a comma. So just keep an eye out for that. And there are lessons about that on Grammar Monster. Okay, the last few slides have been very technical. And most of them were just for reference. So they are not the slides I want to end with. I want to end with this slide. This was the first one. A phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. A group of words that stand together as a single grammatical unit. Most commonly, it'll be a grammatical unit functioning as a noun, an adjective, an adverb, or a verb. Okay, That is everything. Thanks for watching. We've covered a lot there. Be sure to check out more of our videos on grammarmonster.com.